Hello, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of, as you can see here, Strategic Command World War I. We're playing the Ludendorff offensive. Now, from two different people, I've gotten requests of how to get the DLC, or was it a mod that we're playing? Okay, well, we are playing the Blue Max mod. That can be found, it's officially supported. I mean, it's still a mod, but it's officially supported on the Matrix forum for Strategic Command World War I. Go there. It should be like a pinned topic or whatever. The Blue Max mod, what I'm playing is obviously version 1.0.4. They may have made new ones beyond that, but download that. This mod is multiplayer capable. It changes nothing about the game except for the graphics. It is purely a graphics mod. Now, to get to the Ludendorff offensive, hit single player here, and it should be this one here. The start dates here. The March to Paris, which I played in, wasn't terribly happy. The French had way too much ability, in my opinion, to redeploy their forces too rapidly, and that the forces were too rapidly ready after train rides to get into combat. So that was my problem with the March to Paris mod, or DLC, I should say. That is another, and that's a 1914 scenario to August here. Well, it starts there, but it starts the beginning of the war that you're going for Paris, and it's another divisional base. DLC, we're of course playing the Ludendorff offensive here. Let's see what, just checking the different graphics. That's the start, but we're playing Ludendorff. But we're going to cancel this. And these are the two division level games. I think Strategic Command World War I so far is the best iteration that I've seen of using the basic game capabilities for Strategic Command. I do like it a little better than the World War II stuff. But so we're going to go to load single player. And you get to see I have a lot of different games saved. I just a bit of a pack rat with that, and you can see a lot of Ludendorff offensive, but also the others. So there we go. And so yes, you can get the Blue Max mod. Only changes graphics. There may be, well, I know there were some other mods. I haven't really looked at them. Mostly because I wanted to present the game as it was, as it is before, trying to present to you how it can be modded. But this is just a nice graphic. For me, like a lot of people read, read ARIS, objective, NM, national morale. I presume that stands for objective. I read these symbols like people read, and there is a different sort of graphic image without the NATO symbols. You can have, if you want to do that instead of, if you don't, excuse me, I just so naturally read the NATO symbols that I like using them. Having the soldiers or the artillery or the horsemen on it, that's okay. I like that. I like the way it's done here. It's reading information that we can see here and how well it's presented. I just think this does better than big giant soldiers that other games have on the map. So I like this style. Okay, let's look. We can come all the way down here, and we want to get to here as quickly as possible. We're already in November. I think it's the end of December that we end this. So yes, let's come down here. I don't know if we're going to attack this turn or not. That doesn't look terribly favorable. Let's see if we come here. Yes, good. Okay. I think we'll only get to attack with one tank this turn if we do attack. And I'm thinking that if we were to better... Let's look at supply here. Okay. We do have... Oh, let's remove counters. Okay, up here we're not worrying about rivers. Down here we sort of are. And their potential defensive bonuses for either side. So let's move you up to here. Rotate that way. Yeah, I think we'll just get these because I want to directly be able to pound my way into Paris. Not close enough yet. Maybe that'll be close enough next time. I do want to. Bring some commanders forward. Yes, I'm having these guys closer helps to the front, and so yeah, they will get moved up. Right now, I am airing our actual assault on this northern area of the 4 Paris objective areas here, around or however many there are. Okay. So you don't know how useful it is to push in against these tanks. They can max to 10. I just want to see if I want to move this around first. While I'm looking at that, that's pretty well damaged. Let's get you a bit closer. So we're ready to recon bomb. Let's get you reinforced. No, here. Yes, interceptors. Escorts. Right, okay. You lose 6 MPP, which really I don't know as much in this version of the game, but it does sort of pound there a bit more. Yeah, we'll have 2 guns here, and here we'll be able to fire a lot of rounds on there and push in with the tank, I think. Next turn, we'll come back to that some more. Now here, okay. Let's move up and entrench. Oh, well, no, let's just move up and attack. Yeah, you can retreat back out. Okay, that went fairly damn well, so good. I think we will entrench because we're just not in that much of a hurry. We are something of a push or rush. You get better attacks when you're starting next to a... Yeah, you can start there. You can be there. than when you're moving in against them. So that's a good entrenchment. Now down here. So we can let these guys start a little bit more, I think. If we had more artillery to fire, if we had some artillery, I'd be more aggressive. I'm just not, well, okay, two things. One, if I take too many of these, and these have different values. See, national morale value 25, national morale, oh, maybe they're all the same, who knows? I haven't over all of them. Well, this is 12. Yeah, I was pretty sure that some, and I knew that, oh, where is? Oh, we pushed so far beyond it. Now, oh, Verdun. Not only 15, but oh, 30, 30, 30 national morale. Yeah, push too deep in here, France could collapse, which isn't a bad thing, but could collapse due to national morale. But I really do want to take Paris. So hopefully this, well, 30, that may be a bit much. I don't know. Hopefully that won't collapse it if we take Nancy. Or over here, 15. But so I just, right now, I'm not seeing a good reason to just push for push sake. Well, maybe there once a little more artillery here. I don't know. We do want them to not be able to massively reinforce down here, of course. Those two are detachments. It wouldn't be a terrible attack. We have, I do believe, let's see, yep, secured a rail line into here for our supply. That was, and down here. That was what was important for this push here. Rather important. And here we're having a little bit of a supply issue because of the swamp. And also railway that we don't have there. Yeah, that's where we'll hit. He's moved too far forward with the Portuguese. There's something back that way. Okay. Yeah, I guess. There we go. And he's attacked, so he can't move and dig in. I guess we'll leave that open if they want to be stupid enough and send in another assault. Now down here. Okay, pretty good. Yeah, 4 rounds. Maybe that'll be enough. We can re-secure or make sure we have the rail line here. We are attacking across the river, so. And it will take us a couple of turns to move the artillery up anyways. So let's just shoot and take them out. Okay, very good. Yes, we are pushing out there. Just trying to give them a bit of a flank problem. With these guys because they can entrench. Well, you can ensure it. Well, let's. I got 3 points. Yeah. Good. So now these guys are cut off from rail links currently. I guess they could move somebody into there and hold that. But, so they will be getting some supply, but again, it won't probably be good for heavy reinforcements. This whole pocket is a mess for them now entirely. Okay. We're gonna push. Oh, well, let's see. Oh, we have 10 rounds here, so let's fire 2 for sure. So we'll get 2 more next turn. Even if we don't use them, this would have been a better shot. Anyways. Where are they? Well, can they read? Okay. They're good. We'll move them up to here. There we go. If we get too close to that, we'll start suffering penalties. They were there, I believe, and retreated back last turn. Yes, I know that if we were to take this, it'll free up a lot of troops, but at the moment, I just don't know how much Russia's needed. Rushing is needed here. You come. Just get more rail links flowing, however supply is calculated. And then trench. I don't know if anything's down there. Increased number of sides. But we've now cut this off from rail connection as well over here. This whole front. Unless there's some off-map of connectivity, I don't know. Oh, that's right, they pushed in with these guys. Okay. You fall back behind the river. Yeah, you're not dug in, but okay. You attack there. And we're going to swap you out there and attack here. Okay, now, well, if you attack, you're going to be awfully weakened against this unit. Okay, that would be our first attack. And then, okay, those guys are awfully weakened. This is fairly secure now. And even if they do sort of rampage around there, I bet that's not much of a problem. But, well, let's... I'm down here with them. That should be enough. Looking at all the forests and the rivers for supply issues. Oh no, undo. I want to click you. Yeah, I don't know if moving him forward because he's sort of center of a spider's web for supply would be a good thing. I guess you can head that way. We're on the map better. Okay. Okay, we should move into here. You should come down to there. Hopefully you'll be strong enough to hold from the trenches against these detachments. There we go, that's looking good. Probably could use him maybe a bit more over in here. Which, so we had sort of been using him as a bit of a defensive unit, but let's get you down into here. The detachment can move up to the vacated spot. Now these guys, okay. No, he can't operate this turn, I guess. We attack? I forget. I don't know. 2 action points. I want to keep him on the rail so I can move him again. Okay, yeah. Get down here as close as we can. Okay, on the front line here, it will be better to have, and then hopefully, can't reinforce that, but it'll be better to have, well, Let's swap that out. Yes, we can reinforce you. Doing that, and you retire back to there, and you come to there. Better to have the infantry on the front line and cavalry ready to strike. There's a detachment out there and there. While we move the proper corps down this way. Not get us any closer. Well, it would get us to there. Yeah. Okay, well they could attack there for some usefulness. Let's make sure we're close enough with our bombers. We have some fighters to escort. Okay, let's come to here and entrench. Yeah, that's a pretty good shuffle. Get a few more units pushing this way. I think that's good enough to hold that. Well, that is a bit weak now that I see that. Okay, well, I think we'll be okay. For at least a turn, I hope we'll be okay. Well, let's bring up another Paris gun, maybe. Where would we be able to use this? Okay, I guess we could operate it. So, be on its normal movement. Yeah, bombarding that might be fun. Not that we really need anti-air much anymore. Okay, guys, you come to here. You come up this way. I know these tanks could do some real damage. Yeah, I were to use them better. I mean, they could probably, if they'd been used early enough on when this was developing, pushed into here to save this pocket, though it might have weakened down here too much. Do I go this way or do I go this way? That's a pretty full area, and we're probably not going to actually move him all the way down. Yeah, let's go this. No. We want to keep him on the railway, so that we can shift things rapidly if we need to. Again, remember the old maxim: he who commits his reserves last wins the battle. Not necessarily the war, but the battle. Now, all these units back here do constitute our reserves. I mean, they're sort of sitting here, reserves ready to swap out and assault here, but the ones that are very useful are sitting on the railways, like this one, at the start of the turn, that we can put on trains and get, way over wherever. So we may not be in this game the way it's set up, keeping a central, very rear area reserves, but we are, we do have some units still coming, and there's basically replacements that do sort of constitute a reserve, if you will. But so a lot of these units still are in reserve. Here is, you could pull a few off and still keep that pocket contained. But yeah, so we do have a reserve. Because you can overstretch yourself, because obviously this is collapsing. There's no other way to really say this, because they've let way too many pockets develop. But let's just imagine for a moment, before this pocket develops, maybe not before this one develops, or because when we had all the units around here for this pocket, if you haven't watched the old episodes, go back and watch them, the older ones. That then, if we had totally maxed out our front line, every one of our divisions is in contact with the enemy, and we're just using our artillery and pounding and taking out one unit at a time and going in and advancing, that then, like we can see here, a rebuilding of damaged units in essence. I don't think this game has a distinction between, if you will, a total kill by killing it inside of a pocket versus killing it on the front line, which in realistic terms, it just means that unit is shattered. Whatever remnants could be 60% of the soldiers, but it's not like, you don't normally get like 60% dead and wounded in a unit normally. Yes, there are a few battalions or whatnot that attacked in World War I that you had 10 survivors, but that's more, oh shit, we walked into a shitstorm and just got murdered out there. And so yeah, it can happen, but it's extremely rare even in World War I. It's more that, oh, you've just taken 40% casualties, or even just 30% casualties. I mean, dead, seriously wounded and dead. And then the men, not necessarily panic and run away, but it ceases to be an effective fighting unit. And it just, in these game terms, its morale is just so low that you can't even really sort of defend itself. So you pull it off the front line, and you sort of go through this purchasing process, because if you've had this unit shattered, you're going to need so many rifles, machine guns, whatnot, as well as training time for the recruits that are getting, going through basic training, and then the recruits are given to a unit, and rebuilding that unit back up to some semblance of strength. And so this is very real. This element is very realistic. So if we had crushed driven off the front lines a bunch of units that had been able to, had a retreat path of some sort and not being killed inside of a pocket. Because killed inside a pocket when some like these units here, that just means they surrendered. We attacked the air base. Oh, yeah, all the pilots and ground crew, they surrendered. Why the hell the AI didn't fly that air unit out? I don't have a clue. Maybe, I don't know, a supply thing? I don't know. Hitting the HQ, well, okay, you just hit the rear area supply dumps. The troops surrender. That's what that represents. And yeah, so but that's completely done. They're off to prisoner of war camps somewhere until the end of the war. So that's not. Now they do it. Just about every army I know up at this time and through World War II, and you can see this, several divisions, I don't know how many, but several of the divisions that were destroyed in the Stalingrad pocket were rebuilt, because those divisions have, I don't know, let's just say 5% of their personnel are back in Germany in training depots in sort of the home area for that division. And they have, the equivalent of the division patches. Germany wasn't big on throwing division patches on the shoulders like the Americans were, but they're part of that. They're training up replacements to go out to that division. And so they have officers and NCOs that are, whether they were, wounded, but, whether lightly wounded and sent to the rear, or had been sort of heavily wounded but now are recovering but not quite good enough, or whatever, you want to send them out to the front, and they have valuable training lessons to do. So they're, or just rotating some officers in and out, as well as NCOs. You have these guys experienced that are in the back. Now, I would argue most of those divisions that were rebuilt really have very little continuity with the division, that was destroyed in the pocket. It was more of just, oh, morale, yeah, you home garrison sergeants, and they're not necessarily the old fat sergeants. There may be a few of them that have been around the division for a long time, and they're the older dudes, and they're good at training. They're good at supply management. They're good at whatever, they're still useful, very useful soldiers, but not the best frontline soldiers. But, they can also be the young sergeants that have seen 2 years of war and aren't, again, just maybe 2 years older than the recruits, but they've seen 2 years of war, and they're good sergeants, that are just back doing a tour of duty, if you will, training your recruits. Yeah, they're just, okay, you're now the cadre, the central cadre of the division, and we'll send you new recruits. That's mostly so they can, in that case, in the Stalingrad case, is for propaganda purposes. Yeah, see, no, the 121st or whatever, I don't have a real division number, but 121st Infantry Division was not destroyed at Stalingrad, no matter what the evil Soviets say. Here it is, right here. And here's, hey, Sergeant, interview. I've never seen one of these. We could do an interview style. Hey, Sergeant, how long have you been with this division? Oh, I've been with this division 5 years. Or something like that. And so, and make it a real statement, but just, it's a propaganda tool, if you will. But they're effectively destroyed. And so that's what, there was about as many soldiers lost in the Stalingrad pocket and destruction area as were lost in Tunisia. About as many. Those happened about the same time for Germany. I know we're talking about a different war here. Now, to one degree or another, the field armies, and I say to one degree or another because there are home divisions, there are divisions that in the initial closing of the pocket, to some degree, significant personnel escape, but to one degree or another, it's the destruction of the Romanian and the Hungarian armies. Just the Stalingrad debacle, because they were holding the flanks, along with an Italian corps or so, or army they call it. But I'm not, when I'm talking, the army is not a tactical unit, but the whole idea of it. So the sort of field armies, the of Romania and Hungary are destroyed, and the the Stalingrad debacle, and the German corps units, like I say, along with about a corps more of Italians, are destroyed out there. Where in the Tunisia situation, there's more Italians than Germans that are lost, units and manpower. But that's another sort of debacle that Germany faces. So it's about, my understanding is about the same for both of those. I still think Stalingrad's a little bit more, but it depends, I guess, how you're calculating it. But those are just gone. I don't care that, they were flying wounded out of Stalingrad, and few hardy souls, at different stages, even sort of late stages, just decide to, small groups of them just decide to start marching out and, try to hide in the snow during the day and march at night or whatever and do get out. But functionally, yeah, that's just gone. Some cool adventures of soldiers escaping out of Tunisia, by boats and aircraft. But most of those units, they're just gone. And that is just the German army and the Italian army as well. And that's critical for understanding Italy's collapse. The very first, I think it was a corps scale unit that Italy sends into Egypt is somewhere between destroyed and captured by the British, by a smaller, more agile force. And that's very early days. And it's destroyed inside of Egypt and not, part of the back and forth battles later on. And Italy is losing a fair amount of units during, and units as well as just manpower in the back and forth battles with the British. But they take a huge hit in the Second Battle of El Alamein. The first battle is the German assault on El Alamein. The second battle is Montgomery's counterattack and charge across. Italy takes huge amounts of losses because they just don't have the motor transportation and the fuel to significantly withdraw anything. It's just sort of the German motorized forces, and very few Italian forces pull out of that. Between that and then all the reinforcements that they send into Tunisia that get lost, just wipes out Italy's real ability to field armies. Yes, they recreate a few armored divisions, partially with German equipment. Just some of it is just simply they don't have enough tanks build them, but it's also, more modern, effective tanks right now that Italy gets that sort of recreate some of the lost divisions around the Home Depot cadre. But in effect, those recreated divisions could have been, instead of, losing 2 armored divisions in Tunisia or whatever the number was, it's about that, 2 or 3, and then recreating 2 of them or something, they could have had 5 armored divisions, had it not been completely destroyed. Because it's not just, now, where do you get the tanks from? Because tanks get knocked out. But when you got to remember a division that's not completely destroyed, you normally, get beat up a lot. You normally can withdraw your artillery. You can withdraw a portion of your tanks. You can withdraw a portion of your anti-tank guns. A lot of your infantry gets, out. There's more to it than just the numbers of tanks in the unit. But that destroys Italy's army. And when the primarily fighting units in Sicily were German, and the Italian units, they can't hold Sicily. That just tells Italy that they're done. And they make the rational decision to get out of the war. This is the irrational decision of Nazi Germany to keep fighting, for the soldiers to keep fighting. And I've watched some lectures talking about it and have my own thoughts on it. But it's just the irrational fight fight in the Battle of Berlin it's just stupid. It's just stupid Germans. Yeah, I know just about everyone who was around then is dead, so you know you can't. I'm not blaming the modern Germans for that, but it is the same culture. There is a continuity there, but that's just stupid. Now it would be different, maybe if you were having a Battle of Berlin while you still occupied all of France or something, because maybe you could, bring enough forces back east and push them back out or something. But with the Americans pushing in the other direction, well, the British as well, I mean, nobody else really counts. I mean, yeah, there were free French divisions by that point. Yeah, there were free Polish divisions, but they're just sideshows. There's just no reason to fight there because it just destroys the civilian population there. There's no point. There's a point to fight for Leningrad and Stalingrad because those are major cities, but there's a lot deeper strategic depth to the Soviet Union, to Russia. I keep wondering how I should say that, depending on the time and talking about the countries, but a lot more depth, strategic depth there. That you can destroy the city, you turn it into the battleground, and whatever percentage of the civilian population gets out, fine, but it's worth fighting over. And I could even see Moscow, because that fighting that hard over Moscow, because that, in the first year if Germany had made it there and pushed hard on it, that could destroy. I mean, you could lose Moscow, but it'd be another sort of situation like with Napoleon, in that Napoleon gets Moscow without any real fight, and his army is in good shape as it marches into Moscow. That's basically on fire in winter, and the main fires, at least, were the sort of food storage warehouses, spread it to other parts of the city. And then, of course, before railroads, there was no possibility of even like fixing a railroad and bringing in the minimum amount of food to keep your army alive. They were just going to starve there. So, because after Borodino, okay, Napoleon takes some casualties, but his army is in essence intact. And the sort of northern and southern armies fronts remained sort of intact and withdrew, I think, reasonably good. The Spanish withdrew rather well on British ships. If you don't know, I know we're talking about a lot of other things. Don't really have the map to look at. That's one thing I like about playing Hearts of Iron. I have a world map to look at. When Spain switched sides again, Napoleon, of course, again, there was a large Spanish army under Ramona, I think it was, La Ramona, that was in the northern flank of Napoleon's invasion of Russia along the Baltic. And although there were a couple of high-ranking officers in that were fairly loyal to the Spanish officers, fairly loyal to the French Napoleonic cause, they were sort of kept in the dark. And the British came in and negotiated, and then sent a bunch of ships into the Baltic. And almost overnight, there was one detachment or something that sort of fought it out and eventually surrendered, but to the French. But basically, the whole Spanish corps gets lifted off intact by the British fleet that sails up there to get them out and send them to Spain to fight Napoleon in Spain. So so some of these other flanking elements weren't devastated like the Grand Armée Central element that marches into Russia and makes it to Moscow. But it would be a different situation. But if you had fought hard for Moscow, turned it into sort of a Stalingrad type situation, the panzer forces and whatever infantry divisions that made it up to that point, they would just be shattered. And they might, just because presumably at that point there might not be a Russian counteroffensive, might not be, push in that winter. But come the spring, you could easily hit it with a bunch of French Soviet divisions and push it back out. Could. So, there's reasons to fight there, but just geographically and everything with Berlin, that's just a stupid fight. Sort of like we're seeing here with the French. And let's get back to this. Because what are the surrender terms? That's what I was worried about, taking that railway. My worries were proved correct. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but... if World War I was, hey, yeah, Paris and, all of France is going to become part of Germany. Not reinforcing, probably not. Probably should have. But, we're all oh, no, that's right, they attacked. Here. All of France and Paris and whatnot, we're going to become part of Germany and under German occupation. Yeah, there's maybe with, Britain still just across the channel with America in the war. And presumably, like we're seeing in this scenario, the Italians are doing okay against the Austrians, and the Turks have already signed an armistice, so, they weren't doing very well against the British. Yeah, there could be good reasons to fight for Paris at that point, because that could, you're fighting for France, as it were. I don't think they were French. They probably should have been, yeah. Well, of course they should have been, because now they've been mauled pretty badly. At least these guys were entrenched. They're entrenched. Yeah, yep, the Austrians are a bit weaker, but they're good enough to hold. And so, yeah, if it's that, but if it's just over where the border is going to be, why subject Paris to the destruction of a, artillery siege and whatever you want to call the type of battle that we're going to push on there? There's no reason to push that hard, or to fight that hard to defend Paris. Or fight hard. Yeah, no, fight hard to defend Paris, but realize that Paris. You see, look right now. Yes, we're dealing with an AI who's been given a set of parameters, and they've even withdrawn out of that sort of southern province below. We'll see if we probably will occupy it next turn, but we'll see. Just depends a little bit. That could be a trap. It's a trap. Maybe. But we can see here that if you're in this kind of shape, and yes, we have seen local counteroffensives or local offensive, however you want to say it, over here, that have had a little bit of success. We're gonna mess these guys up here, and these guys will reinforce and hold out just fine. We can see the Germans are being pushed back in little places, but we can't see a real ability, even with large American forces and British forces here, to push back, to open back up a way. It's time to go, hey, Germans, what's your deal? What's your, not surrender, but what's your armistice goals at this point? I don't know what they would be. I just quite honestly don't know. Are they going to do something silly like demand Belgium? Maybe. Good chance of moving the border down here a little more west. Okay, you got to move, I don't know, let's say 500,000 Frenchmen out of their homes and resettle them somewhere else, or you lose 500,000 Frenchmen dead, or whatever. What's the better bargain there? And it might be, okay, well, yeah, we know the Ottomans have signed an armistice, but we want to renegotiate that. Might not be, all of the Ottoman Empire back intact, but it, might be, Syria and some other parts of it stay the Ottoman Empire, and Austria-Hungary gets to stay as Austria-Hungary and not, be broken up and whatnot. And so, because Germany, if Germany is the victor, you gotta remember, Germany here, it created the Soviet Union at this time. Well, there's a civil war going on in Russia at this time. But I don't think the Kaiser's Germany thinks Bolshevik Russia. Now, I don't know that they thought. See, I don't think they thought that Bolshevik Russia was going to be a thing. And then they signed the Brest-Litovsk peace treaty with, was it the Bolsheviks or the Mensheviks or whatever before, after the revolution. But they may be thinking that whether the Tsar is coming back or whether there's going to be some other, no one's going to really support these crazy communists, in the end. So they very much may be thinking that it won't be, a Soviet Union, if you will, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. They may be thinking, yeah, but whatever it's going to be, they have a bit of a grudge for some territory. So we've got to be armed for them. And hey, if we've taken any land from France or any other places, they may be coming for round 2 or round 3, however you're looking for it, if you count in the Franco-Prussian Wars or the Napoleonic Wars or what round of European warfare will come next to. And it would be very good for them to go, hey, we have an Austro-Hungarian ally that is strong, but sort of needs us, Germany, to support them to keep, the Serbs from rising up too much and whatnot. So Germany would need allies in post-World War I Europe, and would probably be, willing, at least, what the hell is a few miles, even 60, 80 miles or something pushed a border or whatever. I mean, American terms these are huge, small elements, but if the border is drawn here, or if the border is drawn, on one of these other rivers and whatnot here, yeah, that's good. And there's maybe some good industrial and resource territory here to move into. But to get that, or to have a, reasonably strong Austria that has its borders mostly intact, what would you rather have? I know I'd rather have an Austria that you help industrialize and modernize. So, okay, I hope this, a little bit more talking than normal, but I hope this was enjoyable for you to watch. Please give this video a like up if you've made it this far. And of course, if you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, it really helps if you do subscribe. Helps you, helps me. And if you have any comments on anything that I said during the video, please post them below. See you next time for more historical gaming.